bigs and tiny. Let's get straight to the action.
Hi, welcome to Tcdsm. I am here with Kelsey, and Kelsey is playing Esper Control tonight. How did you do?
4 of draw.
4 of draw. Alright, let's take a look at the deck. So, you're basically playing the Esper Control deck that wins with Nephelia Drown Yard.
Yeah, pretty much exclusively with Drown Yard.
Sure. You have one copy of Jake's Memory Head up to help out with the milling.
Yeah, it's kind of just like a fallback or just an alternate threat, because if they sideboard games, a lot of people bring in like Mythic Needle, so they needle your Drown Yard, and you just kind of need like an alternate quick con that closes games out really quickly.
Yeah, it does.
And he's like a 2 or 3 turn clock, considering you probably already milled him for about 15 or so.
Sure. So most of this deck is pretty self-explanatory and repetitive. You have Azorius Charms, Dissipate, Sphinx's Revelations, Think Twice. The part I'm really interested in is this region right here, is Planar Cleansing. I haven't seen that in a list yet. I haven't looked at a list in a while, but how does that work out for you?
So one of the few problems that deck actually has against other control decks or like mid-rangey decks are when they go Garrett Primal Hunter or just like 4-drop Garrett or Liliana even, and then they like tick up for marginal value.
Right.
So when they just make a wolf, and then on turn 6 you just destroy all their wolves and their planeswalkers.
Sure.
So if they just go like Liliana into Garrett on turn 6, you've discarded 2 cards, but you've already replaced them with Think Twice or Azorius Charm. So that doesn't really matter, and then you just blow them out by destroying their entire board.
I love it. That's so awesome. It's not hard at all to get the 3 white, is it?
No, not really. You play 12 dual lands, or you play 12 white sources. You play 4 fortresses, 4 isolated chapels, a couple plains, and a couple gauntlet shrines. So triple white isn't really hard.
Right.
The only like thing that hurts the mana a bit is the Drown Yard itself.
Sure. Yeah. I played with the deck a little bit, and you're also playing 4 augurs. That seems like a lot.
Augur's just like the perfect card for what you want to do, because you need to find a Sphinx's Revelation or a Supreme Verdict, depending on the matchup. If it's a control matchup, you need to find the Revelations.
Right.
And if it's an aggro matchup, you need to find the Supreme Verdicts.
Right.
And these guys are a speed bump in both. Like, these block Snapcasters to protect your Jace if he's in play, or just are mild annoyances that can't really be dealt with Pillar of Flames and aggro decks and so on and so forth.
Right.
So it's just kind of like the best filler card that you can have, because it is always something. It's always going to be live. I mean, there's only 2 non-instance of creatures or Snapcasters. So you're live with almost everything, just depending on how many lands you draw when you look at it.
How many total lands are you playing?
26 is what I'm playing.
And then you have 1 Elixir of Immortality.
Yeah.
The card's really, really awesome.
Yeah, kind of the problem is against like sort of decks that just have a lot of creatures like Thragtusk, multiple Thragtusks, Angel of Serenity. You need a way to shuffle all these back, as opposed to just Snapcastering them, because you probably have to use a Snapcaster like a Dissipate or a Azorius Charm when you need to.
Sure.
So you aren't always going to be able to rely on these guys to get you back. But after you like Supreme Verdict and then you Snapcast something else and then your graveyard's full, I mean, when you Sphinx the Revelation for like 6 and you get your Elixir and then you just shuffle back in your 2 Sphinx Revelations and your counter spells, like you can really go for infinity against almost any deck and just win. Like even if you didn't have Drown Yards, you can in theory go forever and just keep killing all the creatures and like wiping everything so they can never really interact with you.
Sure.
It's kind of a sort of a rinse and repeat process. You draw a bunch of cards, you wrap the board, you draw more cards, you wrap the board again, eventually they don't have the cards in the hand, and then you start building them, and that's essentially how the deck functions.
Alright, let's take a look at the sideboard. So, you have 2 Duresses, 2 Negates, a Witch main orb, a Rock's Faith Mineral, 4 copies of Terminus, 2 Rest in Peace, 1 Grafdigger's Cage, and 2 Pithing Needles. So, first of all, I just want to ask you, what do you think your hardest matchup is?
The only thing that like has like that I've ever really lost to, or like period, is like hyper aggro, like Jund. Like mono red really isn't even a problem, because they just play dudes. Like their curve is all the same. Like they're 1, 2, 3, 4s, and so you can easily just like get them with like a Snapcaster blocking, like a cackling counter or like a cackler and stuff, and it's not very hard. And Sphinx's Revelation against mono red usually puts it out of the game, whereas against Jund their creatures are big enough where like you Sphinxing for like 4 will always get you there. So, but as far as things go, dresses are obviously against control and any sort of like slaughter games post board, because then you just nab their slaughter games, because like their whole game plan resides on slaughter games and your Sphinx's Revelation, so you just get them out of their hands before they do that. Negate just like more like a mirror breaker card. There's like some people play Dispel, but Dispel only counters counter spells with Sphinx's Revelation. But this deals with like any counter spell they may have aside from Counterflux and Planeswalkers, which is like way more utility.
Yes.
And it can kill like Witchbane Orb, which is like a huge, serious problem that leaving up to Spell won't ever do. Witchbane Orb is just against Slaughter Games, so it gets back up against that, and it's good against Drown Yards. And the other card is Rakdos Return, which can be annoying. Sure. So you just want protection against that, and Burn, because you can, like with this in play, you can just go to, like, without onboard tricks, like one and then just Sphinx Revelation for a million. So it doesn't really matter. The Faith Mender, I don't know why that's there. I just kind of wanted another card against aggro that isn't a 1-for-1 removal spell, because I don't really like either of the black removal spells. I think they're kind of crappy. Because you always have one and it'll be the worst copy. Like you'll have Sacrifice a Creature and they'll have Striker Rootgeist, or you'll have Destroy a monocolored creature and they will go like Burning Tramesy and Burning Tramesy into like Loxodon Smiter, and you're just screwed. Because you're like, so I don't like having those. The only other one that I would consider is Tragic Slip, but that's equally awkward to set up because you have to be able to kill their guy and then something dies, so you have to like rely on having a Snapcaster or Augur in play, which I really don't like relying on. So that's where the 4 Terminuses comes in, because as long as they're not in your opener, you're live to draw them every turn of the game pretty much, because with all the Think Twices and Azorius terms, you can easily do it on their turn, especially if you lost the first one and you're on the play, you can like, they can play an Experiment 1 and you can just Terminus it. Lots of things like that just happen. So like every draw is live against them, and then you just, I hate graveyard decks, so you have to have like your suite of dedicated graveyard hate, so that's what that is. And then Needles are just kind of like catch-alls against annoying cards. Also to beat are Kess Wolf Run, because it makes like they only have to have one threat.
Everything is a threat,
And you don't want to have to like, with a Thragtusk in play, Supreme Verdict, and then Supreme Verdict again to not die to it. So you just kind of side in a Needle, and then when you draw like 6-7 cards, and you just like Needle, Wolf Run, and then you're like, that's never going to kill me. Like, their Rakdos Returns aren't going to kill me. Like, you're kind of covering all of your bases and not dying. So that's kind of what those are in there for. But aside from that, it's a pretty stock, I think, sideboard. Aside from these are what I've been trying out, at least. But I didn't really play aggro today. So I sided, I think, 2 in, but that was just against like more of a reanimating junk deck. So we'd like play Angel Serenity and Thragtusk and stuff. So against like Angel Serenity, you just want to tuck everything to the bottom. So they don't have access or like reach to get it back. So that's what I sided those in against. But aside from that, I think it's pretty good.
Alright, Kelsey, thanks for joining us. We're going to see you play against what?
I believe like Red, White, Blue Control for the finals. It was we drew when we played it out, so it's still a pretty good match. It just shows like the next like kind of resilience towards the control deck. They have so many dead cards in issue game 1 because they have like Detention Sphere. I think you have 7 permanents in the deck. They interact with it all, so it kind of just does what it does.
Alright, let's see it. Welcome to Total Coverage DSM. This is Esper Control, or the Nephalia Drownyard Mill deck, versus what I call Mr. Potato Head. It's a blue-white-red like control deck, and the win condition, his main win condition is Assemble the Legion.
Oh, that sounds like fun.
Which, if you don't know what that is, it's an enchantment that costs 3 white and a red, and it says, at the beginning of your upkeep, put a counter on it, and then you get a 1/1 red and white soldier token with haste for each counter on it.
Is it control elements though?
Yeah, it's control. He's got like counter fluxes and supreme verdicts and Sphinx's Revelations. It's just blue-white red control, but he's playing, his main win condition is Assemble the Legion, which is actually really good. A lot of the decks are playing it as like a sideboard tech. They don't know exactly what matchup they're planning on bringing it in for, but
his Jace just got countered.
They're playing really fast here. Yeah, we saw a couple of Think Twices, and then a Jace followed up with Kelsey's Dissipate.
So Kelsey wants to get his Drownyard online, and then Cameron just wants to keep digging for his Legion. Is that the deal?
Flashing back Think Twice. Basically, what Kelsey does is just try to 1-for-1 him until he either has so much like mana at his disposal that he can kill him with Nephalia Drownyard or Revelation into Nephalia Drownyard, or it's the Esper control deck is very toolboxy. It has answers for just about everything, and it it's very. I don't want to say tempo because it's not fast. I just want to say like it plays spells every turn and it keeps playing spells every turn. It doesn't ever have a problem casting its spells. The mana base is extremely good. This deck is actually what I'm playing right now, and I'm a big fan of it.
You know, I think especially with Gate Crash coming out, I think mana base for everything is pretty much good.
Yeah,
right
you
now,
can you can play whatever you want to.
You have 8 in every single color out there, and it's really cool. I enjoy it.
There's a planar cleansing, which is Kelsey's tech. Before we were playing detention spheres, which are fine, but the problem that you run into is that, like Kelsey said in the Library of the Week, that one of the hardest things for this deck to deal with is turn 3 Liliana, discard into Big Garrick, and then make tokens. Detention Sphere can get rid of the Planeswalker, can get rid of the tokens, but by that time, Liliana has already caused you so much heartache by making you discard cards, and like playing the Detention Sphere, it doesn't really do a whole much because then they can just resolve other spells, and so Planar Cleansing just solves all your problems. It kills the tokens, it kills the Planeswalkers.
Sure.
You know, and among other things, it allows you to play 10 Wrath effects, which is amazing.
Now with Kelsey, it is a mill deck.
We have an Assembled Legion on.
Oh, nice. With a mill deck though, when do you need to kind of mentally start counting cards of Cameron's, or do you just kind of tell?
You don't really need to count cards unless you're in a mirror match.
Okay.
Or playing against like the Bant deck that splashes black for Nephalia Drown Yard. Basically, when you're playing against another mill opponent is when you're going to start counting cards.
Okay, so you just see how big his library is and you just kind of go from there.
Yeah, usually you can get into a state where you have won for them so many times, but drawn cards off of Sphinx's Revelation that there's really not anything they can do. They'll be stuck on top deck mode, basically, and then you just mill them. I want to talk for a second about one of my favorite interactions with this deck, and that is between Azorius Charm and Nephalia Drown Yard. You Azorius Charm his creature to the top of the deck, and then you mill it away with Nephalia Drown Yard. And I don't know how many times I've done that, and I love it every time.
Oh, it's a great answer to anything big. It's a great answer to Reckoner. It's a great answer to Thrike Tusk.
Yeah.
You know.
That's another thing that this deck has, is there's another Planar Cleansing.
Jeez.
It's so good. It's going to kill that. That Assembled Legion is actually gone.
Oh, he counterfluxed. He countered it.
Oh, he did? Okay, I didn't catch that.
He counterfluxed it there.
Yeah. Okay.
So it's probably pretty important to get that off the board for Kelsey. The Assembled Legion.
Well, in his main deck, the only answer that he has for Assembled Legion is the Planar Cleansing. He doesn't have any other main deck answers for that. So, he has lots and lots of Supreme Verdicts. There's a Jace. So, that should pretty much close this game out. I don't think that Assembled Legion is going to cause much of a problem because he has 2 Supreme Verdicts in his hand. As well as... Excuse me, I see 2 Supreme Verdicts, which is, I mean, it just totally deals with those tokens, and it's not going to be a problem. It's uncounterable. So, Cameron plays 2 Searing Spears at the end of his turn.
Was that Kelsey or was that at Jace?
It was at Kelsey. It's questionable whether or not it should have been a Jace, but we'll see what he has in his hand. I think I saw a Detention Sphere for the Jace. Yeah.
Oh, there we go.
I wish I could see the number on that die. I don't know how many. I think he has 3.
Oh, yeah, I don't think he ticked up, did he?
I think he has 3. Yeah, he did.
Oh, he did.
I think he has 3 tokens. There's a Snapcaster Mage for...
How many lands does this run?
The Esper deck?
Yeah.
26.
Oh my gosh.
There is a Snapcaster for Planar Cleansing, which is going to take care of that Assembled Legion. Also going to take care of the Detention Sphere, bringing back his Jace. We're getting rid of 10 more cards.
Does Kelsey care at all what's in his graveyard? As far as like Snapcaster or anything?
No. Cameron's deck doesn't play Snapcaster Mage.
Oh, okay. He just plays Assembled Legion.
Oh, he's got 4. He's got 4 of them, but Kelsey's so far ahead now. Cameron's down to less than 20 cards in his library.
And this is without even using the Drown Yard. This is just Jace going to work, yeah.
And he's got Drown Yard for win. So that's the end of game 1. As far as Kelsey sideboard goes, I think we're going to see probably Negate come in. Probably going to see Duress come in. And we're probably going to lose a few of the Supreme Verdicts.
Okay.
Trying to think of what else he may want to take out. The Ultimate Prices and the Devour the Flesh, they don't seem all that great.
Okay, and then what about on Cameron's side?
I'm not sure what Cameron was playing in his sideboard, so I'm sure he's got some amount of Jace Memory Adept, which we're probably going to see him bring in against him. But beyond that, I'm not sure what he's bringing in.
Okay, let's see game 2 here.
Probably some combination of like Negate or Dispel or something like that. He's playing 4 Counter Flux in the main deck, which is really, really good.
There's an Oblivion Ring. I don't know if that was main or not.
So, can't see either of their hands very well. It looks like Kelsey has Dissipate, Pithing Needle. Not sure what he's putting the Pithing Needle on. It could be, let's see.
Except for any walkers he might have?
Yeah, that's probably what it is for Tamio, yeah. He gets to think twice with his Augur.
In these early turns, they're just trying to hit their land drops, right?
Maybe that wasn't a Pithing Needle. Yeah, I saw a Pithing Needle.
Yeah, of course you did.
Yeah, I did.
But about these early turns, I mean, is it just kind of dealing with any early threats and then just, keep dropping your land every turn and getting ready to either rev or get ready for a Drown Yard whenever you hit it? Because there isn't a whole lot of early interaction, is there?
Well, their early turns are usually spent digging.
Okay.
You're digging for X. So in this matchup, he's digging for counter spells, and Augur is what does most of the digging.
I wonder how Tamio landed there.
He also has Think Twice. He was tapped out.
Oh, okay.
I take that back. He was not tapped out. He didn't have double blue for the Dissipate in his hand.
Oh, interesting.
There's a Pithing Needle. Not sure what he's naming, but I'm guessing Tamio. It would probably be a fair assumption. They were going to see a Duress. Yep, those came in from the sideboard. He took it with he got it with the Augur, and now he's going to cast it.
Oh,
taking care of the Sphinx's Revelation. Oh, Cameron is playing Snapcaster Mage. Yep. That's interesting. I didn't see it in any of his other games. O-Ring on. Come on, you guys. Pithing Needle, I would assume. Yeah, because he left the town. He left the Drown Yard tapped, so he O-Ring the Pithing Needle. Flashing back. Feeling of Dread. I'm pretty sure that Feeling of Dread is in Cameron's main deck. Not really great in this matchup, as we're only playing 7 creatures.
Be bonkers in a creature matchup, though.
I'm a big fan of Feeling of Dread in this particular deck.
I saw that come a couple weeks ago. I'm like, Feeling of Dread.
Yeah.
Oh,
it's really good against like the. You need to be able to draw your Supreme Verdicts and your Terminuses, so it just buys you time against, especially like the Jund aggro deck,
anything aggressive.
The Naya Blitz deck.
Yep.
Yeah, there's a lot of haste going around right now, and it's unfortunate. In earlier versions of this deck, we were playing two Feeling of Dreads in our sideboard, mostly for Thundermaw Hellkite, because. Basically, the best answer that we have for Thundermaw Hellkite is Azorius Charm plus Nephilia Drown Yard. Ultimate Price is also fine, but we're not running as many of those in our deck, so it's harder to draw them. And we do draw them. It's hard to save them. It's a spell that you just play. So, Feeling of Dread, just like I said, it gives you time to draw into a Supreme Verdict or Terminus.
Gotcha.
But we lost the Feeling of Dreads for other things like... oh, I don't know.
With like Blind Obedience, stuff like that?
No, we're not playing... I guess some versions of Esper are, but Kelsey is not playing Blind Obedience,
no.
And I am not playing Blind Obedience either.
I guess I was talking from Cameron's perspective. Against an aggressive deck, probably in the board.
Probably not Blind Obedience. I don't think so. It's a fine card, but it's a lot better in
the decks that are trying to race.
Mm-hmm.
So say Naya Humans. It's really good when you're trying to race against a Jund deck.
Sure. Jund is very, very good right now.
Well, I think it plays 32 creatures, and I think 24 of them have haste, so...
Don't worry, guys. We'll hopefully get one of those matchups here in the
Kelsey
coming weeks.
Kelsey has not drawn an answer for that Tameo, and it has got to be getting close to ulting, which will not be good for Kelsey.
Does Kelsey even have a drawing yard?
He does have a drawn yard, and it's been kept tapped down with the Tameo for quite some time now.
Sure. There it goes again.
And there's a second drawn yard to a Tameo. So he's... As long as he can keep turning the Augur sideways, he can keep Tameo off of ult.
Mm-hmm.
And she's not really all that much of a threat. Keeping that one drawn yard tapped. That's not fantastic. Kelsey is holding a negate, a Sphinx's Revelation. Card is so amazing.
That's been a real shot in the arm to all control decks out there.
Cameron attempts a dispel, and Kelsey follows it with a negate. So we saw a resolution.
He left mana up. I'm just trying to play around it, right? We're playing around
Now we're
any
going to
counter
see
spell.
what's he playing?
So he's just organizing. Oh,
Witchbane Orb. Very good here. Cameron
Would that be pretty boss in the mirror too?
Cameron is... yeah, it is. Actually, we played last Friday. Me and Kelsey played the mirror match. And he did what I would have never expected him to do. He boarded in Pithing Needle and Witchbane Orb. I expected the Witchbane Orb. He boarded in Pithing Needle and named Drawn Yard.
And then you couldn't really do anything to that?
Well, I kept my planar cleansings in.
Ah.
I keep my planar cleansing in. He takes them out. Because I don't play... I play one Pithing Needle in the sideboard, but I mostly just name Wolfrun with it.
Mm-hmm.
He gets a lot of utility out of the Pithing Needle, and he's probably correct for playing two of them, and yeah, I mean, he beat me. He 2-0'd me that game, so it was probably the correct thing to do.
Now, for all you guys at home, maybe Blake can tell a little bit about this, but what are your feelings of using dice for life in a tournament setting? I don't agree with it.
Yeah, I don't really like it very much, and I'll tell you why. Because any number of people can come along and do any number of things to mess your die up. You can do it yourself on accident, and by that I mean they could bump the table, they could reach to grab something and bump your dice. They could do, I mean, any number of things can interfere with that and roll your die. And when you're doing that, you're not paying attention. You don't have your life total memorized. Maybe you have your opponent's memorized because it's more relevant. But unless you're like at a very, very important number like 1 or something like that, you're not going to remember what it is most of the time. So I'm a big fan of pen and paper. A lot of people use the apps, but again, there is an X factor that can get involved, and your app could die.
Speaking from experience?
I am speaking from experience. Your app could randomly shut off, and some apps, like the one I was using, don't keep life totals. They start you over with a fresh game when you open it for the first time. So I'm a big fan of pen and paper. The tried and true, trusty. I did use a life counter app for quite some time, and I enjoyed it just because it kept a history of all of my games, and I could go back and look and kind of see how I evolved or whatnot. But I like the apps, but there's just an X factor involved, and there's nothing that I can't do with the pen and paper.
Sure.
You know what I mean? I can keep track of that, and I can save all of that, and look at it later.
I guess speaking from like a tournament perspective too, I know a lot about my opponent. If they plop down a huge bag of dice and they roll, and but they put their life total there, that tells me that they're that they haven't been to a huge tournament before, or they haven't.
They're careless.
Yeah, and I don't know if that's kind of information you want to give away. I want to sit down with my pen and paper. I don't want them.
It looks professional.
Yeah, and I don't even want to show them my previous life totals too. I think I read that in an article on Star City that just showing somebody's life totals, you get a lot of information.
Any information that you give your opponent, it affects the outcome of your game. So, this is pretty much over. Cameron's holding nothing but land in his hand, and there's a Jace. So we're gonna see Snapcaster for negate, I think.
Probably. And then he has Witchbane Warriors back up. So correct. I mean, because Witchbane shuts down Jace's mill, right?
That's Jace Architect. That's the one that the one that Factor Fiction.
Dang it! I confused my Jaces again. Okay, sorry about that.
Kelsey didn't counter it though. He flashed in a Snapcaster Mage and did nothing. So I'm not sure what he named with the Snapcaster Mage, but Kelsey's gonna play a couple of Augur Boluses. He has very few cards left in his deck. He has Revelation for a lot. Now he's going to get a negate and a Revelation.
Does he have to be careful how many he's going to Revelation for here?
Yeah, he has very, very few cards left in his deck. Less than 20. I'm not sure if there's less than 10, but there's a Detention Sphere.
And there's a counter.
And a negate. So...
Cameron's almost out of 2 again.
Yeah, he only has a few left. 3, 2. Can't tell how many are there. Going through the motions.
Oh, mill decks.
Well, at this point, you just scoop. There's no conceivable. He's not playing like an elixir or something that he can just draw and be okay. So.
Well, even elixir doesn't help you. I mean, you're getting milled out.
No, Cameron.
Oh, okay.
He could have an elixir. He could draw and shuffle.
Got it.
Shuffle his library back.
Oh, okay. I see what you're saying. And there's the last mill card. Ugh. I'm just not the biggest fan of getting milled out, but, these decks do exist, and they're good right now. They have answers, and, they will...
Cameron scoops it up. Yep. So, that was a quick 2-0, and that was a very good display of why I like this deck so much, and why I think that you should play it at your next FNM. So, thank you for joining us for this episode of TCDSM. I am Blake.
I'm Biggs. We'll see you next time.